Grace is a leadership responsibility. It is not leniency. It is a disciplined way of leading humans through imperfect work. And the choice of grace begins when a leader practices authenticity. When a leader accepts and allows their own humanity to be on display. Authenticity and grace are the natural, even inevitable, outcomes of leading well as a human leader. You're listening to the Well-Led Podcast, and I'm Kate Johnson, here to share a lesson for effectiveness, a look back at what we've discovered in the last few weeks when it comes to authentic leadership. Every month, I want to share a kind of summary with you, a wrap-up of a kind that balances the concepts and practices we've discussed in recent weeks. The ultimate purpose of this is to provide the guidance a leader needs to put everything into practice, to take action. When it comes to the topic of authenticity, though, there is a little awkwardness. Practicing authenticity feels like a contradiction. Will the very act of practicing make it inauthentic? I don't think so, and I think we can make the case for this by first examining the key takeaways from the last 3 weeks. We are currently scrutinizing the leadership essential to choose grace, the skills that bring balance to the relational skills of demonstrating care, and the operational responsibility to provide support. And while grace is not a common topic in the workplace, too often confused with softness, leniency, or even just human kindness, it is in fact a leadership discipline, a deliberate choice. It's this choice that balances professional expectations with human reality. It recognizes that mistakes, learning, experimentation, and uncertainty are inevitable whenever people are involved. This is what we need to know and remember. Grace does not eliminate standards. It shapes how leaders respond when standards are not met. Next, we've learned that authenticity is accepting your humanity, not displaying every emotion. And this is an important distinction. Authentic leaders do not pretend to be perfect, but neither do they abandon professionalism. They acknowledge their limitations and mistakes while remaining accountable for results. Because of this, authenticity and grace do not devolve into a kind of free pass. Instead, these skills allow leaders and their teams to keep performance at the center of all they do. It also means that safety is firmly anchored in the workplace, and it teaches us that psychological safety exists to support learning, not comfort. Its presence empowers people to ask questions, admit uncertainty, report mistakes early, and experiment responsibly. Without that safety, people begin hiding problems rather than solving them. Safety, created in the space afforded by an authentic leader, is therefore a business advantage, not a nice to have. A companion lesson here is that leaders should normalize experimentation. If you want your employees to also be authentic, then it's vital to welcome trial and error to the table. Your own moments of authenticity serve as permission for others to try, fail, learn, and improve. Teams become more innovative when leaders frame mistakes as information rather than evidence of incompetence. The practical implication is that leaders intentionally create environments where thoughtful experimentation is expected and reviewed instead of punished. This same thoughtfulness must include oneself. We've learned that self-compassion improves leadership. While many leaders still try to lead as though they are exempt from being human, accepting one's own humanity actually strengthens leadership. Letting yourself work while human will reduce perfectionism, increase resilience, and create healthier expectations for everyone else. And your experience and journey toward self-compassion will serve another purpose. Because your team is watching. They learn as much from your response to failure as from how you handle success. Probably more. If, after a mistake, you respond consistently with curiosity, coaching, and clarity, you teach the team how failures should be handled. This is supported by our next takeaway as well. Accountability and grace are partners, not opposites. It is a misconception to view grace as an act of lowering expectations. The truth is, leaders can simultaneously maintain high standards while responding with patience, coaching, and support when people inevitably fall short. Grace changes the leader's response, not the expectation itself. In fact, grace makes accountability an accepted norm because it does not approach it as punishment. And this matters, above all, because it helps us understand that professionalism and imperfection are compatible. This is really the central philosophy of this podcast, that leading well is where professionalism and imperfection meet, where work is accomplished by humans. Our discussion of authenticity is one way we can reject the false choice between excellence and humanity. Professionalism, specifically leadership, does not require perfection. Instead, professional human leadership is demonstrated through honesty, humility, responsibility, and continual learning. Having learned that choosing grace does not eliminate standards, authenticity is about accepting your humanity with self-compassion, that both of these support experimentation and learning, and that accountability and imperfection can share space with grace and professionalism. Well, now we can turn our attention to the habits leaders can develop to make these lessons come to life. There are many, but we will limit ourselves to 3 today. The first, admit your own uncertainty or errors when appropriate to model authenticity. The short, simple phrase, "I don't know," is one of the most powerful tools available to you in your efforts to be authentic. Coupled with, "I made a mistake," these admissions will allow your employees to see your humanity and your bravery. Be the first to admit ignorance, and then ask if anyone in the room does have the answers you need. Second, make experimentation welcome by telling employees explicitly where thoughtful risk-taking is encouraged. Don't make people guess. This is especially true if you've been slow or resistant to inviting experimentation in the past. Identify areas of projects or assignments where people can fail safely. You don't need to tackle this practice with grand sweeping gestures of trust. Instead, you can offer a clear space for experimentation. That procedure that's been around for ages and everyone knows could be better? Invite someone to try a new approach and report back on what they learned. Ask the team for improvement ideas and let them take charge of those that are low risk. Be sure to celebrate wins and lessons learned. Which dovetails nicely with our last practice. Replace perfectionism with continuous improvement by asking, "What did we learn?" after any mistake. Mistakes will happen. It's a guarantee. Your response in these moments matters. You can either embrace human frailty and fallibility or create an environment of fear and secrecy. When you remain curious, you allow others to share their experiences and reactions. When you focus on learning, you keep the spotlight trained on the outcome, not the people involved. When lessons are prioritized, you foster the knowledge needed to avoid the same mistakes happening again. A leader who admits their own mistakes, invites ideas and experimentation, and then turns first to learning and growth in the face of others' mistakes is not only demonstrating authenticity, they are setting a place for their team to join them. Leader, you are human, and this is where your leadership begins. Authenticity is the practical expression of that humanity. It admits to error, it releases the need for imperfection, and acknowledges that your employees are human too. Ultimately, this looks like a leader who chooses grace without sacrificing accountability. Choosing grace, and by extension, choosing authenticity, is not the absence of standards. It is the way mature leaders sustain high standards while remembering they are leading imperfect human beings, human teams that can continue learning, improving, and producing results together. Thank you for listening to the Well-Led Podcast from 123 Limited. If this episode was useful, you can support the show by following or subscribing on your preferred podcast platform, or by sharing it with someone who's navigating similar leadership challenges. The latest companion toolkit is now available. Check the show notes for a link to request your copy. We'll be back next Tuesday with the first episode exploring creativity. And later this season, we'll explore the role and importance of safety to leadership. If you want updates on episodes, resources, and upcoming offerings from 123, you can join the newsletter at any time. Thanks again for listening.